Why, hello there. And top of the morning to you, nerds. It's going to be a good stream, man. It's going to be a good show. I see you trying to gamble, but the joke's on you because I had to cancel on Friday, so there was no gambling initiated, so why would there be gambling coming up on a... Come on! Think about it! Think about it! Come on! Hello! What up? What up, everybody? Hope you guys doing well. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the show. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to get in here, chat some Loki, chat some MCU, chat some craziness when it comes to what's going on with Marvel. I am excited. And I did really enjoy the first episode of Loki. And as much as I can today, I'm going to try to not talk about how it might not be performing that well and Marvel's in a death spiral and we're all totally screwed. We're going to instead focus on that hype shit. We are instead going to focus on all the theories, all the fun, all the coolness that is in there, because there is a lot of coolness in there. And on that note, I do want to apologize. Let me get my fix. I don't want to, I want to apologize about missing on Friday, and the frequency of videos have been a little off since Friday or whatever. We had a family situation. It's all good. Everything's all good. But yeah, it did take a lot of my attention, and weekend was crazy. Sometimes when it rains, it pours. You guys know what I mean. And yeah, on top of everything, I'm also feeling a little bit under the weather today. So I apologize if there's more sniffles. Sorry. How is he? He's good, man. He's fine. He's also been teething something fierce. So a lot of fevers, a lot of just not good stuff. So we've been kind of on call, you know what I mean, in the parental realm. But yeah, everything is good on that end, and everything's going to be fine. But yeah, I wanted to kind of get into today talking about Loki, getting into it, getting deep. I spent the better part of Saturday evening. It was like, for what, one of those situations where, like, out of nowhere, you get a ton of energy kind of later at night, or maybe you've been kind of brain dead, or you've been sick or whatever, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of energy at night. So Saturday night, I went deep, man, on looking into all of these different things with Loki, coming up with some theories. Pretty cool stuff. So I want to share some of that with you guys today. I'm gonna put this into a full video, actually probably several videos, and I want to kind of get that same theory, speculation, energy that we had during the Ahsoka show into Loki. And so I am going to work on that, but this will be sort of a stream where we refine some of these ideas. We go over them. I ask you guys some questions. We kind of break it down a little bit more casually. Similar to when I was explaining to you guys my big theory about the Yuuzhan Vong and the scout ships and the Purrgil, which is still possibly in play, by the way. So that's what we're going to do for today. On that note, I also should have a video out about Anakin Skywalker and the Mortis gods. That should be coming out either today or tomorrow. Hoping to be able to get that out today. It might have to drop tomorrow. And we'll be dropping some crazy Loki videos throughout the week. Here's the deal, though, guys. I'm not going to be here on Friday. And I'm not going to be here on Friday because I'm going to be leaving to go to New York Comic Con to do the fan meetup Saturday night and meet up with a bunch of you guys and have a really good time. So that'll be sick. That'll be awesome. And I'm looking forward to that. But it is going to jam things up a little bit. Probably no stream Friday. Guys, no stream Monday either. Because I will be traveling. So I'll try to make it up to you guys with some cool content and maybe some extra streams next week or something. For those of you that are going to be there, for the meetup, oh man, I can't wait. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be a good time. So I'm excited to meet some of y'all and hang on Saturday. We just can't get arrested or do any property damage. That's all I ask. We might get a little crazy. We might get a little bit wild. I know Ryan is nervous. He's preparing contingencies and all sorts of stuff, man, because some of y'all are pretty wild. So yeah, let's just try to keep it a little bit more chill. Speaking of chill, before we get into the Loki stuff, don't worry, we're gonna get there. Relax. I didn't clock in on Friday. I wanted to just say hi to you guys and chill, okay? Jeez. I did just want to say, too, that I started reading the Fate of the Jedi books. Okay, so I made a tweet last week. I said something like, if this tweet gets over 1,000 likes, I will read all 9 of the Fate of the Jedi books. And because I'm a man of my word, I started that endeavor. I'm almost done with the first book. I went pretty crazy. I went pretty crazy on it. And man, what a fun series. And it reminds me of a lot of the other stuff, because this is like post Yuuzhan Vong War, post Jason's Fall, Darth Caedus or Caedus. I always forget how you say it, but like it's post a lot of that stuff. But still, like, it's just so damn cool that like Luke has a kid, the Solos have like multiple kids, you know, Horn has a kid. It's just like it's such a good experience, and I'm having a lot of fun reading it. But it also kind of makes you realize, like, man, Disney really did fumble that bag by like not allowing Luke to have a kid, by not allowing you know, Han and Leia to have multiple kids, and Rey being whatever the fuck Rey is. It's just, there's no way that was ever going to be able to compete with actual stories about family and family members that we care about. Like, watching Luke be a dad is awesome, you know, and it's just, man, it's a tough one. So I know that this is, you know, look, these books have been out for a long time, and I know a lot of EU fans had sort of always felt this way, but damn, to actually go through it like on my own and to just be having a blast reading that stuff, it is a damn shame. So I'm going to say this. Star Wars needs a secret Skywalker. 100%. Star Wars needs a secret Skywalker. Luke needs to have a son, a daughter, or some children that, for whatever reason, he kept secret, didn't tell Rey about. None of that shit. The only, like, that would be fantastic. And that would really, I think, set up the future of the franchise to matter and for people to really give a crap about. Because I just don't see how you push ahead with Rey or some of those other characters and like get a whole bunch of those people back. Like, it's just not going to work. You know what I mean? And just, man, that's just such, I feel so strongly about that after reading through these books. I'm just like, man, they really missed the magic, which is crazy because like Star Wars is about family. Disney is about family, or at least they claim to be, right? Like, what was the logic there? Like, did nobody like just dig into that old stuff and be like, you know why this works? Because it's family, and because we care about Ben Skywalker, because of Luke and Mara. It's like, bro, what the fuck did they do? Like, it's crazy. So what's weird though is apparently, or not apparently, but I believe they can fix it. Like, I just believe that. Like, Luke should have a secret son. Done. And then the future stories are about that and like kind of, you know, going in that direction. That would be absolutely perfect. That would be fantastic. So I don't know how many videos I'm going to make about the series. I'll probably update you guys as I continue to read. I'm really looking for Abeloth stuff because I'm trying to, you know, do more Abeloth theories, and I'm going to continue making Star Wars videos, even if they're infrequent. Ahsoka has definitely made me think more about like the theories and the speculation and stuff like that. So I'm going to be doing more of those videos. Fate of the Jedi, and right now something that's happening with Talon, or no, Talon. Talon is how they say it, and it sounds so much like Balin in the book. It's bananas. But there's stuff that's like connected to Abeloth that I'm trying to look into. And in fact, if you guys want to get really wild, and don't worry, we're going to get into the Loki stuff. I know everybody's all upset. Wait, what? There is something pretty crazy that we could listen to real quick. I mean, is everybody going to get mad? And by everybody, I mean, are the Marvel fans going to get mad if I totally tricked you and now we're going to Get into some Abeloth. I can never make you happy, chat. I don't know what to do. Okay, check this out. I actually haven't listened to this yet.
Ended up tying into the more. All right, last fan question is about Abeloth and the Ones and how they kind of ended up tying into the Mortis story arc from the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Maybe just kind of
check
they
this
wanted to
shit
know what
out.
your opinion was on that. So maybe what the decision was to tie it into the Clone Wars, or just your thoughts on Abeloth and the Ones as characters in general, I guess.
Okay. Well, what happened there was when we sat down and initially plotted who Abeloth was and what kind of being she was, we knew that with fairly specific. We knew I'd say we knew the mid-range specifics of who she was and what she was going to do.
This is author Troy Denning discussing Abeloth Mortis and collaborating with Dave Filoni and Leland Chee to tie Fate of the Jedi into the Clone Wars. Now, we're going to continue listening to this because I think he's about to talk about Filoni's involvement in this. But if you've been watching the videos I've been making or the streams, I've said a couple of different times that the actual books that discuss Abeloth tie into the Clone Wars Mortis stuff. They treat the Mortis arc on Clone Wars as canon, and in the Fate of the Jedi books, Luke actually goes to Mortis to get the Mortis dagger. Okay? So I've said that, but now we have it like right in our face, like, oh yeah, that's because they literally collaborated with Dave. But check it out.
How the story was going to end. But we hadn't refined at that first meeting. You never refine everything at the first meeting. And specifically with Abeloth, we hadn't refined exactly who she was before she was Abeloth. And we were sitting down after about halfway through the trilogy, just, because we're thinking about the very ending and, how we're going to fill in all these little details, or the trilogy, when I say the 9 books trilogy, because it's a trilogy divided into 3 books each.
Yeah.
But we were sitting down thinking about that and how we were going to wrap up Abeloth's story and tie it all together. And we started talking about that and the details and how she related to the Force. And, of course, we knew how she related to the Force on the macro level, but we're talking about the micro level, how she came to be who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And
how she came to be like the planet.
Leland Chee was keeping a quiet eye on the conversation because this was all happening over email. We were about, a week into it. And Leland says, there's something I need to tell you. So he told us a little bit about the Ones, and we said, oh, that sounds interesting. Sounds a lot like what we're doing with Abeloth. And he said, yeah? And then he started asking questions, and he said, let me check. And then he came back and he said, well, okay, Dave says this.
Uh-oh.
And then we said, oh, cool. Yeah, that's really cool. That ties in. Can we do this? And he said, let me check. So they had a lot of back and forth, and over a period of about 3 or 4 weeks, we finally got enough of the story of the Ones. Because they didn't want to, obviously, for security reasons, they didn't want to let out more than they had to what was going on with that story arc. But I think that, and I'm reading between the lines here, but that Dave could see that, yeah, this was just naturally tying into what he was doing in a big way. Mm-hmm. And it was just one of those weird things, it's nobody, if you had said 5-10 years before, 5 years before.
So I'll go into more detail in the videos I'm going to make, because I am going to make more videos about Abeloth, because I'm just absolutely convinced that that's where this is going. And like I said, it's just interesting that Dave was tying this all together. Now, I believe what they're saying is they know what Abeloth is, but they weren't sure where she would come from, how she would tie into everything. Dave has this idea for Mortis and the Mortis gods, and it's the Ones via what he does in the Clone Wars arc. So he connects Abeloth to the Mortis gods. And again, we'll put more of this in the video, but that's why I'm so confident that on the planet of Peridia, that's where the ones first resided. And that's why they leave that planet to go to Mortis. Like, that's very clearly in the old lore. And I'll sort of recover this when I go over this part in the actual book series. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's pretty sick, man. And yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up to you all. So now we'll get into the Loki stuff, so all the Marvel fans can not feel completely left out. So first thing that I want to ask, Chad, just in general, as we're getting into this, what did you guys think of Loki? How'd you guys feel about the first episode? What's your scores? And what theories do you have, Chad? Let me know. Let me know. Absolutely magnificent. 8, 9, 1,000. Straight fire. 9 out of 10. 10. Yeah, it was really good, man. It was a really good first episode, in my opinion, for sure. Let me get this pulled up so we can go through some different things. I definitely think not only was it a really good episode, but it does this cool thing of like bringing theories and speculation back into the world of Marvel. And I have so many different questions about this. And I think there are a couple of, pretty obvious big mysteries that are happening in the show, things that people are talking about, right? But before we get into kind of any of that, the first thing that I'll say is, just with regards to like Marvel and where Marvel is at, we're at this place where I think many people are missing the good old days and wanting things to go back to the way that they were. And I just think that's really ironic because we're talking about time travels and multiverses. And so all of that stuff is completely possible and on the table. So at a time when we're like, I want to go back, it's like we literally can go back in some ways. And I think that we might go back in some ways, but we'll get into that. So I think the first big question that is happening with Loki is really more about the season finale of Loki season 1 and what exactly is happening here, because it's of course revealed that Loki is time slipping. Okay. And everybody has different explanations for like what is happening via the time slipping and how this is working. And we're gonna dive very deeply on all of that. But one thing that I haven't seen a lot of people focus on is why was Loki time slipping? And as far as we remember, Loki is sent back to the TVA via the tempad that He Who Remains relinquishes. You'll recall that like after he breaks through the threshold, which is a whole thing, and we're going to talk about that too. After they cross the threshold, he slides his tempad to the edge of his desk. And I think that's because he knows somebody's going to take that tempad and do a thing. Sylvie is the one that takes the tempad. And the thing that she does is uses it to send Loki back to the TVA. Okay? And so what happens is that Loki's aura, his temporal aura, or what they refer to as a soul, which is in the very first episode of the first season of Loki, when he comes into the TVA, they have that thing that takes a picture of his temporal aura. And this is what the goofy little dude was saying, like, do you acknowledge that you're not a robot and that you have the equivalent of what most cultures would call a soul? You remember that? They take a picture of his aura and it's like, blackish with like a big red thing. You know what I mean? Mariana, I totally get you, and I will address that later on when we get into the Q&A. Let me just flow on this real quick. Let me flow on this low key, bruh. You know what I mean? So what essentially has happened is Loki's aura or his soul is in different parts of time. Not necessarily different parts of space, but different parts of time. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it offensive if I call the goofy little dude a goofy little dude? Goddamn, y'all, Charmin soft. I don't have a career if that's really what's going on, then just fucking cancel me right now because I don't have a career. Holy shit. Anyway, moving on. So his soul gets scattered across different times. Now, it's in the same place. It's in the TVA, but it's in different times. Now, let me ask you guys. Why do you think that is happening? What's your answer, chat? What do you think's going on? Anybody? Bueller? Anybody? Bueller? Why did that happen? Eric from New Rockstars discussed it. Of course he did. I'm asking you. And you could say that you agree with Eric, but put it into the chat. He's interfering with the reset. What does that mean? Gotta explain it better. He's interfering with what reset? What are you talking about? So, this is not supposed to be possible. Right? So, everybody in the show, but really it's mostly OB, the reset of the loop, I kind of agree with you. I think we'll get there. Everybody is saying that this is not possible. Time works different in the TVA. That's number one. There's no such thing as time slipping in the TVA. Time travel doesn't work that way. It creates new branch timelines, right? So I think there are a couple of interesting things that we have to keep in mind. Number one, this crack on the floor is not in season 1. That's important because it might be obvious considering the OB conversations, but this is causal time travel, meaning he is able to actually change the past. I agree with Eric from New Rockstars Theory. Yep. What is it? What is it? Put it, spell it into the chat. Type it into the chat. Can you explain it simply? Because that would be great if you could explain it simply. So that's the first parameter that we have to keep in mind, is that he is actually changing the literal past. Because that crack is not in the first season at all. Okay? The next thing that we have to keep in mind, and I think that there's a couple of different viable solutions for this, okay? So I think it was Ryan Airy from Screencrest said, and he's like very close to my thinking on this, but diverts in an interesting way. I believe he said it's because they use the tempad, but he doesn't have the tempad. Therefore, like in Across the Spider-Verse, if you don't have that thing, you're not anchored to a singular point and you're like leaping throughout. Okay? I think that is possible. I think that's possible. Like, it is certainly, to me, connected to the tempad and what that Kang tempad is capable of. Does Sylvie still have it? Well, we don't see her use it in the post-credit scene, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have it. She could have used it, come through the portal herself, and left it there. She could be hiding it in the same way that Loki was hiding it using his magic, although she's not as good as magic as him, so I don't know if that makes sense. It's probably more the case that she uses it and then leaves it there. Okay? Now, what I think is happening is actually really hard to explain. I think the TVA past, present, future is all simultaneous, so if anything is altered, then it happens across all of that time. Yeah, I get you, man, and I'm not trying to say that doesn't matter, because it does matter, but that's like that doesn't do anything for it. Doesn't explain it to me, because it's still causal. There's still a past, there's a present, and there's a future. So even if it's all existing at once, then like sort of yes, sort of no. It doesn't actually explain anything. It's like saying water flows down a mountain. You know, it's like, yeah, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. Okay, So here's what I think is going on. That TemPad and the material that is used in that TemPad, we know that it's the same as all the Kintsugi material that's on the Citadel at the End of Time and a few different places in the TVA. It's also the same material that He Who Remains bloops off of the table and does the whole presentation of his history and past. That's all done with that same material as well. And I think, without getting like way deep into what that shit is, because I think that is possibly the God Quarry and condensed energy from a dead multiverse. But we'll talk more about that in a second. What's important for the time slipping thing is that TemPad is very powerful and capable of doing almost anything. It also could be pre-programmed with all of the information from the loop. The continuous cycle that He Who Remains talks about at the end of season 1. Okay? It is pre-programmed with all the information from the loop. Okay? Now, there's one thing that sort of sent me down a rabbit hole that made me think that the reason Loki is time slipping is because the loop is broken. Meaning, what would otherwise have been a very easy trip from point all the way at the end of time to beginning of TVA was now convoluted because the loop itself is broken. Okay? So, what broke the loop? Well, there's a major clue, and it has to do with one of my favorite philosophers and Zen masters, known as Alan Watts. Which, by the way, absolutely bananas the way life works, because I've spent many a night listening to Alan Watts. You know, you guys know I really like Zen. I like Zen philosophy. I like Zen. And it's so interesting that the clue to what's happening with Loki is from Alan Watts. Did you guys know that one of the last things you hear at the beginning of Loki season 1's finale, remember how it goes in the universe expands and you're hearing all these different voices? You're hearing all these different voices, and then it pulls out from one black hole into another one, and then we kind of... You remember this sequence? One of the lines in that you hear is from an Alan Watts lecture about time. Did you guys know that, first of all? Which, by the way, shout out to New Rockstars for pointing that out. Let me see if I can find the video where they talk about this, and I'll show you. Let's see here. Okay. Here it is. I'm going to need to... Give me a second here. I need to switch some things around. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, let's see here. We gotta find it. Where's the Alan Watts, John? Because they have a bunch of stuff from the Sacred Timeline. Pause that. pause that. Buckle up your buttholes. It's about to get real weird. It's about to get real weird. This is a new Rockstar's video from over, I think it's like 2 years ago. Okay. And in this, Eric is breaking down all of the different things you hear in the intro.
Banner's big line in Avengers.
My secret cat. I'm always angry. That's my secret cat. I'm always angry.
Hank Pym and Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Time is the true enemy.
You sent my suit through the mail?
And it sounds like the voice of Carly Morgenthau in there from Falcon Winter Soldier. And Caecilius to Doctor Strange.
Time is the true enemy of us all. Time is the true enemy of us all. Time kills everything.
And then it ends with a subtle baby cry.
Okay, so this is actually really important. I want to talk about this baby cry later, and we're going to talk about this in other videos because I think this it's a part of my theory about Loki becoming Avengers Prime, but check this out.
Now, this one is actually hard to find, but it is the sound of baby Loki crying in that flashback in Thor of Odin taking him in when he was a frost giant ward.
That's the exact cry.
Now, you'll notice there's a bit of
small for a frost giant.
Loki bias among these synths.
I wonder if it's actually at the beginning where he talks about the Alan Watts shit. Let's see here.
Deprives us of jet ski Mobius, but makes up for it with Jonathan Majors' wickedly talented performance as he who remains a variant of Kang the Conqueror. Look there, Forrest, which first played in Captain America the Winter Soldier, and then more memorably in the final scene of Avengers Endgame. That was the moment Steve Rogers created one of the many variant branches.
Anybody got the timestamp where he talks about the Alan Watts line in here? Maybe it's at the very end. It might be one of the last things they say.
To be okay.
Signaling that he learned the core lesson that Sylvie laid out for him earlier this season.
This isn't about you.
But as he tumbles back through the time door into the TVA theater, the window lights on the floor go in opposing directions, which is odd because presumably they're coming from the same exterior light source. The way these lights parallel Loki and now on her desk you'll see more pens like the
Gosh dang it! Somebody help me out and find this freaking Alan Watts thing.
like the apathetic yet still benevolent variant of Kang versus the darker, more menacing variants who end up conquering in the end. And we realize everything we have just seen has been set inside of one black hole that neighbors another as the music shifts like a
By the way, I think these black holes, without getting too crazy here, the two multiverses, one where the sacred timeline was isolated from the rest of the multiverse, and then the regular multiverse. But that's a little crazy too.
in Loki's entire life, start to finish in particular. Then we pull out from our solar system, now hearing a lecture from philosopher Alan Watts about time.
Found it. Okay. Sorry, that took a long time to find. So this is like one of the last things you hear in there. It says, we think of time as a one-way motion from the past to the present into the future. Now, I've heard this lecture actually multiple times because I'm a huge fan of Alan Watts. This lecture is about time, but it's really about karma, okay? And one of the things that Alan Watts talks about in this lecture is he talks about the idea of perceiving time as though it were this consequential thing, this like steps that happen. And really, we think of ourselves and our own karma as the result of our past. Okay? So saying that because all of these things happened to me, I am now this way. That's karma. Okay? But how you free yourself from karma is by changing your perception that that is reality and understanding and realizing that everything is emerging and that you can just decide in that very moment to let it all go and to think in a completely different way and become a completely different person. And that it's not time and consequences that make you who you are. It is your perception that time and consequences have made you who you are. There's another expression in Zen where it's like karma is a train full of compartments, and you can unload those compartments one by one and take your time and undo your karma, or you can cut the cars and let them all fall behind you instantly. The very idea that you have to be the result of your karma, or that you are tied to your karma, is not real. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about this before we get too much further down the line? Because it's very highbrow, weird, crazy Zen stuff, but it becomes important because karma you could view as the loop. Who these characters are is just as important as what happened to them. What is the course of history that will continue to play out over and over and over again? Does anybody have any questions before we get any further into this? So why is this an absolutely crazy lecture from Alan Watts? Why is this here? Why is this in the intro to Loki? Just look up Alan Watts' lecture on time, and I believe you'll be able to find it. It took place like on a boat. I'm on a boat. He wrote that song too, Alan Watts. Pretty crazy guy. Yeah, Zen is a whole different thing. I'm absolutely in love with Zen as a philosophy and as a way of approaching the world. But regardless of all of that, the reason this matters is because it has to do with what breaks the threshold, in my opinion. What breaks the loop? What breaks them out of the time? Does anybody know where I'm going with this? I would be impressed if you did. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Love, sort of. Love, sort of. Josh likes Zen but don't practice it. That's a common misconception of what Zen is. See, people think that if you practice Zen, you're supposed to be just zoinked out all the time. That is not what Zen is. That is like a very pedestrian interpretation of what Zen is. But that's not what we're here to discuss. The Loki's changing. Exactly. It's that they have shed their karma. They have shed their karma. They have both made a decision. And the decision breaks the loop. And the decision is twofold. Okay? So, and actually it's so crazy because there was a line when I was reading the Fate of the Jedi book, there was something that Ben Skywalker says, like in his mind as he's in this one fight, that reminded me of it. He says, my father always taught me choose the third option of a two-choice question. Look for the third option when presented with two options. Do you know what I mean? And that's like the Zen idea. Because if you understand it, like they're being, like basically what He Who Remains is saying to them is, I've ran this shit 1 billion times. I've run this shit back 1 billion times. One of two things is going to happen. One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to take over or you're going to kill me and let this all become chaos. Then there's another multiversal war, another one of me that remains. Reincarnation, baby. Literally, you're looped up. What you gonna do? And they choose the third option, which is both. And I think they both decide in that moment to do different things. Sylvie has absolutely decided she is going to kill He Who Remains, which is part of what breaks the loop. But it's also that Loki decides he's not going to. Loki decides to carry on the work of He Who Remains. They both make that decision instantly in that moment. And that decision changes time. Just like shedding your karma would change time. Because you're no longer in that loop. You're no longer living in such a way that you believe the past represents your future. So when they make that decision, they break the loop. And I think breaking the loop makes it so the coordinates that are in the tempad, even the destination itself, is varied. It's different than it's ever been before. This is a true breaking of a loop. And so that's what I think causes the time slipping. Okay? So does anybody have any questions about that before we go ahead any further? Anybody? Bueller? Anybody? Before we move on, is anybody like, bro, I don't have enough coffee for this shit? Go put another cup on. Because we're just getting started. I like Gen V better than Loki. I ended up finishing the first episode of Gen V and then getting into the second episode a little bit. There's some good stuff in there. Chris, maybe, possibly. Fascinating. Hits the Nespresso button. Let's go. Nespresso's so good. Okay. The next thing we got to talk about is what's going on with the time travel in the TVA. Let me get a different... Gosh dang it. Let me get a different thing pulled up here. Okay, a couple of other things that we can talk about here. I guess we could start by talking about the time loom and talking about what is happening with the threading, right? Because we kind of already have the clues right there. But let's talk about it a little bit further. So, why is this threading and stuff? Like, what's the deal here? And what's the thing? So, when OB says, because Loki says, well, what if that doesn't happen? Right? What happens if it goes wrong or something to that effect? And OB says, well, have you ever heard about when you get too close to a black hole, you turn into spaghetti? Chaz, what's up, brother? I try to ask that again later on, man. I'll try to answer that later on. So we literally see that there's two massive black holes at the end of time in this version of the multiverse. And so I think it's pretty obvious. Like, maybe the universes exist within them. Maybe the TVAs or the end of time or the God quarries or the endpoint, whatever you want to call it, these endpoint things exist inside the middle of both of these black holes. And to me, when these timelines spread out and reach the edge of the black hole, they get spaghettified. Spaghettification. It's on the warning when you walk out, right? And that's because, like, if in a black hole, like, physicists talk about this a lot, because if there would be a way to get past the edge of a black hole and get really into that deep, dark hole, get way down in there, you could maybe go into another dimension, another universe. Who knows? It's like the calm or the center of a hurricane. Yeah, the event horizon. If you could get in there, things could be stable and perhaps even, unlocking different dimensions and different things like that, okay? But at the edge of it, you're going to get torn apart. That's like the way we understand physics and everything. And, I'll give a shout out to MT. I watched a couple of MTV. I went deep on Saturday night, guys. Okay, so a lot of the stuff that I'm bringing up in this stream is from that deep dive on Saturday night. I watched a couple of MT videos, and I do agree with MT about one thing in particular, and that's that we're probably seeing with those massive black holes at the end of time what the universe will look like after heat death and everything collapses inside itself, right? And so I do think this is sort of like at the end of time, and you're seeing these two black holes, which represent what the universe looks like at the end of it, after heat death. Okay? I also agree that the colors of this spectrum and these energies do closely resemble the same energy that gets sucked out of Shang-Chi's dad by the big old dragon thing. You all remember what that looks like? That energy gets sucked up out of him. It's like coming off of his face. Pause. It looks just like this energy. I went back and watched. I'm a little bit ashamed to say this, but it is what it is. I went and looked at what Eternity looks like in Thor: Love and Thunder. It's all the same colors. It's all the same idea. And Eternity in Marvel Comics is all of the time and life force energy from every being that will ever exist. That's what Eternity is. Like, Eternity is the form of everything, right? And so there's obviously like this thing at play with Marvel and the stuff that they're working on that's linking the Infinity Stone singularities, the not the stones themselves, but what they represent as far as a building block of reality, and how the human soul connects to that as well. Or a being soul. Doesn't even have to be human, but like the soul, the idea of the soul absolutely exists in Marvel, and that is made up of this energy, and this energy that comes from people, right? So basically, again, what I think is happening is when Loki and Sylvie break the loop, which, by the way, regardless of how it happens, they do break the loop. That's a huge, that should be obvious. Eternity is the embodiment of one universe. But is that congruent with some of the new stuff that's going on, Trev? I'm not so sure about. And I mean that honestly because I haven't read it all. But like I'm talking about like Avengers 65, a lot of the stuff that Jason Aaron was doing, Avengers Forever, the setup of the first firmament, and a lot of that rebuilding of the Marvel multiverse from the concept of the first firmament, and then there was like some great evil entity that comes from the third iteration of the cosmos, and then there was the first hero, and that's where you get like the god of darkness and the god of light, which kind of has to do with the King in Black and all this other stuff. Like, not to get too crazy down the rabbit hole, but I don't know that Eternity, especially if I remember correctly from Eternity Wars, there is a multiversal Eternity, because that's what gets chained up by the first firmament, unless I'm mistaken. So I think that there is a Eternity for each universe, but there is a multiversal Eternity as well, I believe, which is so interesting, again, because that could connect to Eternity Wars, which is possibly that part 2 of Secret Wars, which also was so weird because in Quantum Mania, Kang the Conqueror says we'll defeat Eternity, or something like that, right? He talks about Eternity, and he says we'll like stop Eternity or break Eternity or something like that. Like, that feels like something that they are specifically setting up. Warhammer is less confusing than this. I mean, do you want to go right into Warhammer talk? We could do a pivot. Like, dude, you want to talk about some Warhammer? You want to talk about the King in Yellow? Do we want to do it? Because hey, I'm game. It's Adam's fault that we're about to go all in on Warhammer, which, by the way, spoilers for the meetup. You will become indoctrinated when you guys get in the building. We're locking the doors behind you, and it's Warhammer time. I'm putting on lectures about Warhammer. I'm preaching the gospel of the God Emperor of mankind. Thank you, Adam. Okay, anyway. Let's get back into this. Not confusing at all. Shit. Mosmos, just give it a chance. I was watching Dune last night, Mosmos. I was thinking about you. Okay, let me talk about my notes, or let me look at my notes. Okay. Okay, we're not quite ready for that craziness yet. Okay. So next big crazy thing that happens, of course, is Loki ends up in DOS future. Okay? And he gets pruned. Which, by the way, some of you guys during the watch party and everything were claiming that he gets pruned from the front. And I was like, I don't think so. And a lot of you guys were like, no, obviously. Bro, not only does he get pruned from behind, gets that rod from behind. Not only does that happen, you actually can see the person behind him. Did you all know that? You can actually see the person. I'm sure you've seen some of the videos. You can actually see the person behind him. I don't think it's here, actually. It might be earlier on. I might have to find it there. I have an image of it. Let me see. Let me see if I can... Give me 1 second. So if I... Oh, I already did that. Okay. So if I do this... And I take this. Can I put it in here? Did that work? Hey, it worked! Okay, that's the... oh, God. You really cannot see that shit at all, huh? And I can't zoom in? Perfect. Perfect. Well, let's try to find it back in here, then. It might be... Yeah, it's right here. It's like a second before that, actually. I'm just pausing so I don't get copy struck, okay? It's like right here. God damn it. Where's it at? It's going to be hard to find. I have like a still frame of it. I think that's it. God damn it. Anybody got a timestamp? Anybody got a timestamp? It's further? Oh, you know what's really crazy too? I wonder if anybody's dissected what is in this room way at the end and like blown that up too. Because those murals are important and it'd be interesting to see if they had changed. Is that it? Man, it's like hard to find. It's when he turns. Look, it's this image right here. And you can kind of see the person behind here. I also cannot believe that I can't zoom in on this. You know what I can do, though? I can do this. Blow it up. Okay. So that's the screen grab right there. So you can kind of see the form of the person there. It looks like you can make out the... TVA, jacket, tie, and a face, right? So you can definitely kind of see that there was a person behind him, okay? Now, I think the most obvious answer is that it is Loki, right? And there's even some evidence like within, you know, some of the trailers and stuff like that. And look, you know what else I gotta say? I think it was really stupid for Marvel to give out 4 episodes of screeners. You know what I mean? Because now there's like a ton of people, which like, I don't know everything that happens in the screeners, but I know a lot. And so it's like, I don't know, man. I just, you know, like, I enjoyed knowing things about Ahsoka, but not knowing 100% how they happened, and like speculating and like having fun and like trying to put it together. And I'm trying to do the same with Loki, but it's a little bit like, do you want me to just tell you exactly what happens? And that's not fun. You know what I mean? Yeah, it sucks the air out of it for sure. It's like, why did they do that? I think they were so desperate to have good Rotten Tomato scores that they were like, oh, we want to give you a big old sampling of this. But it's like, who gives a fuck, bro? You know? Ugh, so stupid. Anyway, so I think it's Loki. I think Loki is pruning himself in the future. And I actually also think that what's going on here might get looped again, because there's some shots from the trailer where you've got Loki with the microphone and he's like, let's run it again. And it kind of seems like he's just like resetting and re-looping things. And so I actually think we might see in the future Loki pruning his younger self and also possibly resetting everything we're seeing happen right now in the show, especially when you consider what's going to happen at the end of episode 2, which I'm not going to spoil for you. You can probably go find it online if you're really, really curious. But I think that a redo, a reset, possibly learning how to manipulate time, might be happening within the TVA. Now, it also could be Mobius. It could be Mobius. And that could still tie into the way that things are going down. Not entirely sure, but it could be Mobius. It also could be Ravonna. You know what I mean? I don't know. It could be one of them, but it definitely feels like it's somebody with a TVA uniform that's coming up behind him and pruning him. So, to me, I definitely think that it is Loki, and that we'll see it loop, and he might even be, like, changing stuff, okay? Okay, now, let's talk a little bit about DOS TVA, and let's talk about how Loki is going to end up as Avengers Prime. Now, this is a big video that I'm working on. Hoping to release it in the next couple of days. And unfortunately, we're going to have to talk a little bit of spoilers. We're going to have to talk a little bit of spoilers for Deadpool 3. We're going to have to talk a little bit of spoilers for Loki Season 2. So I'm giving you a spoiler warning. If you don't want spoilers, get on out of here. I'll try to keep it brief. I'm also going to try to keep it vague. And here's the thing. There's a big part of the leaks that might have been changed. We're not 100% sure, but it has to do with this character. Okay? So, spoiler warning. In the original leaks, it says that even though we think there's nobody at the end of time right now, that's not true. And that there is a person at the end of time that is still manipulating everything. And that would be an older Sylvie. Okay? Now, this person here, I believe her name is Kate Dickie. Kate Dickie was cast as older Loki. That's on grids. That's on casting grids. She was cast as older Sylvie. Okay? But this isn't older Sylvie, at least with what we're seeing right now. This is a general within the TVA. Okay? So either they changed this and this is no longer old Sylvie, or this is old Sylvie who went back in time within the TVA and established herself as a different person. Okay? Is that her name? Kate Dickie? I think that's her name, isn't it? Is that not her name? Chat, help me! Why is Nick and Briggs saying LOL? Explain yourself! Explain yourself, you goddamn heathen! Okay, so. Let me tell you something else that's absolutely nuts. What the hell is this? Man, what the hell is this? You know what it could be? Do you know what it could be? It's the son of both Lokis. Mega got it, yeah. So we don't know. Again, they could have changed it. But that could be Loki's kid. And Sylvie's kid. Yep. Could be. I wonder how you would feel about that. I don't know if that's real. That's not in any of the leaks, to be honest with you. But if this is older Sylvie, and that is her son, who else could that be? He kind of looks like both of them, too. I don't know. I guess we'll see, won't we? Now, if this is true, and it's basically just that this is Sylvie who... Like, again, this all has to do with our perception of time, and it's going to get really weird and timey-wimey. But I think that it's possible that as soon as Loki is kicked into the TVA, technically because the loop is broken, all kinds of stuff can go wonky. I think older Sylvie, who... That's not the Sylvie we meet in the future of the TVA, but that is the Sylvie that's going to become this Sylvie eventually. It's all timey-wimey bullshit. And... Sylvie's been watching this whole thing, understanding that Loki was actually right, and setting him up to take over and to be Avengers Prime. Okay. Now, Avenger Prime. It's not Avengers Prime. It's Avenger Prime. But I just say Avengers Prime because, I don't know, bro. I don't know why I am the way I am, okay? Get off my back. So... Why do I believe this? What do I think is going on? Well, let's start with the quantum ore. What is Avenger Prime? I'll explain that in a second. Let's start with the quantum ore. Should we just explain Avengers Prime? Avenger Prime? Should I explain it? Which one should we do? Should we do the quantum ore? Or should we talk about Avenger Prime? Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Okay, let's talk about Avenger Prime. Please explain Nerd Avenger Prime. Okay, I'll explain Nerd Avenger Prime. This is from Marvel Comics. The big issue you're going to want to read here is Jason Aaron's Avengers number 65. I think is the one that sort of explains this, okay? So this was told throughout a bunch of different stories. It was a big culmination event in Marvel Comics that happened via the Avengers, this thing called the God Quarry. So let me just kind of explain the story of this Loki, okay? So this is a variant of Loki who actually wins and is really powerful, also kind of grows to become not a douchebag and a loser. But think about it this way. It's a variant of Loki that is actually a badass. And this variant of Loki ends up realizing that the fate of Loki is to lose to the Avengers and to make them the best versions of themselves. Does that sound familiar to any of you? This Loki realizes it is his destiny to lose to the Avengers, making them in to their best version. Does that sound familiar at all? Yeah. It doesn't ring a bell? Really? Are you being facetious? Because this is what Mobius tells Loki his purpose is in Loki season 1. They're watching the playback of his video and everything, and he says, you are destined to lose. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're destined to lose because your purpose is to make people realize the best version of themselves. So this version of Loki, and yes, it does start because Thor flies into the sun and dies. So he becomes the king of Asgard and becomes like an actual winner, okay? And does it make sense that Thor dies when he flies into the middle of the sun? I don't know, bro. It's comics. Shut your mouth when you're talking to me. Now, from here, what Loki does is prevents the Avengers. He like goes back in time and he prevents the Avengers. He takes Captain America out of the ice and puts him into Jotunheim with the Frost Giants. He makes it so Iron Man never becomes Iron Man. He does all of these different things to prevent the Avengers from coming, okay? And then, as the king of Asgard and Midgard, all of the enemies of the Avengers, like the Red Skull, Thanos, the Celestials, all of these different people, Galactus, all of these different villains come. Loki beats them all. Okay, but this is where it kind of gets really weird. He casts a spell, and it's just a little bit like Full Metal Alchemist and the concept of equivalent exchange. Yeah, we get real. By the way, did you know we get really nerdy on this channel? I don't know if you realize. Check the name of the channel and shut your mouth when you're talking to me. So, equivalent exchange, magic. Loki of this universe destroys all of these people. Thanos, Red Skull, Celestials, Galactus, all of them. He destroys them all. But it comes at a great cost. It kills every living person in that universe except for Loki. There's this actually like really cool shot of Loki in his traditional garb with the horns, and he's chilling in the middle of space, and there's literally all these bodies just floating around him, and he killed everybody in the universe in order to defeat all of these beings. Okay? Then, because he's sad, he flies into the sun and kills himself. End of story. Nothing cool happens after that. Except that it does. Instead of dying, this Loki appears at what is known as the God Quarry. Are you with me so far? Are we okay? Do we need to pause? Do you need a restroom break? Do you guys need a snack? We can do nap time early if you come back and you're more attentive afterwards. Which way are we going here? Are you still with me? Okay. What is the God Quarry? It's like okay, so it's this place at the end of time, at the edge of the multiverse, and the first thing you'll notice about the God Quarry is there's all these like villains, I think maybe some heroes too, although I don't particularly remember, and they are all turned into stone. Okay? Let me see if I can find an image of it. See if I can find an image of it. Okay, so here's the Marvel official database that's talking about it. And there are several stories that involve the God Quarry. There's like the King Thanos story that involves it a little bit. I think it's going to be set up for something really important that they're doing it with Marvel Studios. Okay, let's do a little surfing around on the Marvel database here and talk you guys through some of this. So they call it the Quarry of Creation here. The God Quarry, the rich soil of rotting deities from which all existence grows, the boundary between the orchid of all known realities and the first firmament, the dark sea of the infinite nothingness that came before. The Quarry of Creation is a dimension beyond all space and time that can be accessed through a black hole located at the edge of the universe. Hello? Over time, it became a graveyard for gods. And so the top sentiment of the quarry became known as the God Quarry. At the bottom lays a nigh impenetrable barrier which serves as the boundary between all realities and the first firmament. Now, the first firmament, super important, possibly a big villain that's going to be coming, possibly the villain of Eternity Wars. Don't worry, we will get there. The barrier can be breached using the Infinity Stones, but these are the multiversal Infinity Stones. I think they're called the Black Infinity Stones. It's a whole different thing. Don't worry, we'll get there. This allows one to enter the primordial universe of the first Celestials, who guarded the positive Infinity Stones, which can deliver to the multiverse. Those are the those things. Okay. So like, here's a shot of Thanos in the God Quarry. Here's a shot of it. Here's some of it. These are like these fates, right? They almost feel like the great mothers of the fates from Greek mythology, right? So what's in the God Quarry? Basically, unlimited power. And when you go there, like here, let's just keep reading. Are you guys chill to just keep reading a little bit here? Do you guys hear that tapping? Like, what is happening? Sheesh. It's like really annoying. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna see what's going on. Of course, there's a goofy little bird out there trying to do some shit on the edge of my office. This is life. What a lovely, beautiful journey. Okay, let's keep reading here. You guys chill? Are we okay? Is everybody okay? We can start distributing the snacks if we need to. Okay. Over the course of a million millennia, the Quarry of Creation became a place where ancient gods went to die. It was guarded by the Cosmic Coven, a trio of powerful witches who fed on the souls of said gods. As the corpse of the gods accumulated, the Quarry of Creation became known as the God Quarry. In modern time, the God Quarry became a sought-after source of powers. Those who entered the God Quarry willingly were submitted to a trial for their very soul, or temporal aura. Should they pass, the power held by the quarry is theirs to take. However, should they fail, they would be frozen for eternity in the ageless walls. In order to recover his lost power to defeat his son, Thane, Thanos ventured into the God Quarry and was forced to experience an illusion where he became a member of the Avengers and a celebrated hero of Earth, eventually realizing that what he was experiencing wasn't real at all. Thanos rejected being trapped in the illusion and fought his way out of it, acquiring the power he sought. During the subsequent fight, Thanos and Thane were sucked into a black hole that led to the God Quarry, where the Phoenix Force was stripped from Thane by the Coven. Thanos defeated Thane and condemned him to a life of misery trapped inside the God Quarry. Okay, so we can keep going on here, and I'm going to put more of this in the big video where I'm trying to break all of this down, okay? But the main point is that I think the Quarry, or rather the Citadel at the End of Time, is the God Quarry, and that material, that all of that stuff, because there was a interview with Kate Herron for Loki season 1 about the finale, where she talks about how the designers were told to make it look like the Citadel was carved out of the very stone that made up that meteor or asteroid. Okay? Now that we know, generally speaking, what the God Quarry is, do you know what the quantum ore is? Scientific lens, don't even say those words around here. We're acting like the Agatha show doesn't exist. Do you know what the quantum ore is? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Am I the only one that did the homework? Quantum ore? Quantum ore? I'll get it pulled up. Another shout out to Eric Voss and New Rockstars. This comes from the Deep Dive channel they did. Oh, what the hell? This one has ads? Let me try to find the God Quarry stuff. Or rather, the quantum ore. I think it's in the first part of the video. Maybe not. Okay, here we go. I told you we were going deep.
Variant Sylvie, who was digging in Oklahoma in 1858 using, if you look closely at it, a quantum ore shovel produced.
Quantum ore shovel. Produced by Advanced Idea Mechanics.
By AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics. This is a huge unresolved mystery from this first season. What is quantum ore and why was Sylvie digging for it? I think quantum ore may actually be the fuel for all of Kang's technology in the future, and as of this moment, undiscovered fossil fuel. So by digging it up throughout history, Sylvie may have been working on one solution to eradicating the TVA's existence.
Yeah, I think this is important because Sylvie plans to eradicate the TVA. That's like her whole thing from Jump Street. There's even a moment where she comes first face to face with Loki, and he's like, I want to work with you. Let's take over the TVA. And basically she's like, I don't want to rule the TVA. I want to destroy it. Okay?
This detail right here is why here on the Deep Dive, we keep digging deeper. So step 1 of Kang's...
So what I think is going on is... Okay, there's another element here, and that is that... when the sacred timeline is fraying, okay, there's a particular image here. Let me try to find it. There's a particular image here.
Storyboard reveals.
Let me get that out of here. See if I can pull this up. Here it is. Okay. Let me show you what I mean. And again, look, we're just speculating, you know what I mean? We're just having fun. We're just trying to nerd venge. This is pretty cool, pretty fascinating to me. I think it's really interesting how this image of the timeline fraying, which I believe comes from the past, This is the past version of this character, I believe. Okay? I think it's really interesting how all of that fraying there looks very similar to the way the Kintsugi stuff works its way through all of this material at the end of time. We've also been wondering a lot about these different statues and what they mean. But now that we've talked about the God Quarry, do you now see maybe where I think this is going and what I think is happening to those statues? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? You see it, right? It's those that have come before the quarry before, failed the test, and were turned into stone. So, as a way to kind of like tie all of this together, I think what happens after a timeline or a universe frays to the point where it becomes like it dies, right? The death of a multiverse. I think when that multiverse is destroyed, all of the energy, souls, time, mind, all of the singularities, all of the different aspects that make up a universe or a multiverse get condensed down and then become the God Quarry for the next iteration of the universe. Or perhaps that just is what the God Quarry is. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's possible that this is the time of the quantum ore. That's what it is. It's maybe spread throughout the multiverse in some ways because there's always leftover stuff from the old universe that carries over into the new universe. This is a principle in Marvel Comics that happens a lot, like Galen, or as you know him, Galactus, right? I believe that's his name is Galen. I'm not 100%. Things that come from the old universe into the new universe. And in Marvel Comics, that idea of the first firmament is the first universe that doesn't have multiverse. It's like this evil thing that didn't like the expansion of the multiverse, didn't like all of that. And so the way I think this could all be tying together is that quantum ore is incredibly powerful. And maybe Sylvie knows that. That's why she's going around trying to find it, because she's trying to get the power to destroy the people at the end of time and all of that. Okay? And so, yeah, that's kind of like how I tie all of that together. Now, let's take it all the way back to Loki and talk about why Loki is Avenger Prime, okay? And small spoiler for what's going on in Deadpool 3. And this is more of a rumor than anything, because I think that they could change this. I think, we don't know for sure. But it's obvious that the TVA is going to play a role in Deadpool 3. And one of the things that's supposedly happening is that the TVA is going around finding, like, I guess what you could call prime versions of heroes, okay? So Wolverine in Deadpool 3 is supposedly a being that is captured by the TVA because he's the best version of Wolverine, and they want to capture him to be able to fight against the Kangs. So one of the big setups for Secret Wars is very likely to be the TVA collecting multiversal Avengers. Remember that Secret Wars in the MCU is literally an Avengers film. It is Avengers Secret Wars. And one of the things, and one of the fun things that's going on, is they're going around collecting up all of these versions of the heroes. So that's why they're going after Hugh Jackman Wolverine. So they're going around to timelines that are being destroyed and grabbing up multiversal Avengers. This sounds very similar to Avenger Prime Loki in Marvel Comics, because again, after that Loki flies into the sun to kill himself, he doesn't die, and instead is brought to the God Quarry. And the Fates, those three witches, basically tell Loki, oh, hell no, son. You don't get to just die. You have to pay a pittance. And the pittance you have to pay is that now you have to assemble a multiversal team of Avengers, which actually ties into what Loki's true purpose is, which is, again, to lose to make the Avengers the best version of themselves. So what Loki starts doing as Avenger Prime is sending out originally these beings known as Deathlocks, who are like cyborgs, basically, which, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if you started to see Deathlocks pop up in some Marvel stuff over the next couple of years. We'll see. But the Deathlocks go out there and get all of these different Avengers. And, without getting too far down that rabbit hole, that Loki builds an Avengers Tower in the God Quarry. And he is Avengers Prime, the one that leads the multiversal Avengers. Now, to take it back to Loki Season 2 and what might be happening with Loki, we're almost done, and we'll get into Q&A. But what might be happening with Loki is he is becoming the best version of him, the version of him that's supposed to be to help formulate the multiversal Avengers to fight against the Council of Kangs, okay? So I think that this season is likely to end with Loki being at the Citadel at the end of time. Loki being the person in charge of the TVA, and Loki being the one that will more or less be behind assembling this multiversal group of Avengers to fight against the Kangs. Okay? So, there you have it. Any questions? Any questions? Any thoughts? Any concerns? Was that crazy enough for you? Was that crazy enough for you? Are all the death thoughts like the fembots from Austin Powers or something? Exactly right. Where are the aliens? Are we alone in the universe? The aliens are right next to you. Imagine Dynasty of Kang is all the Avengers Prime fighting against Kang and losing. Well, that's not going to happen until Secret Wars. Avengers Kang Dynasty is about 616 being defeated by the Kangs, but possibly also sort of preserved and saved via Secret Wars. It's complicated. I was visited by one last night. Oh, hell yeah, man. They got good blinkers. Do you think the place where Mobius goes is the same place as X-Men Charles Mid Palace? No, but that could be a call to Cerebro, somewhat intentionally. Who knows? But no, that's not really where the juice is at for me. Yeah. It's kind of wild, huh? Check your Discord after the stream. I will. It's almost like this stuff's really cool, and all the other shit that doesn't seem to matter or tie into this exact thread should be canceled, but we'll save that for a different video. Ah! Ah! Okay, let's get into Q&A, and then I got to get out of here because I got to work on an Anakin Skywalker video. You guys don't know how difficult my life is, man. You know, just talking about nerdy stuff, deep diving on nerdy stuff for a living. You guys don't know. You don't know the struggle. Carter says, first in today says, yo, Josh, totally off topic, but I'm trying to get into anime shows, and I would love to hear some of your favorites sometime or any recommendations. Yeah, I'm all about that. I would say some of my favorite anime, I mean, like, obviously Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, but that's like, it's almost barely anime. I know that might trigger some Dragon Ball fans, but it kind of is. Although it is shonen, at least initially. I really like Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo. You know, as far as some of the more modern stuff, I absolutely love like One Punch Man, Demon Slayer, Black Clover. There's like anime is not a genre, it is a medium. And what I mean is there's all sorts of different kinds of anime. So depending on what kind of stuff you like, there's an anime for that. Like Elise and I really like this anime called Spy Family. And it's so cool, man. It's about two spies that are hiding the fact that they're spies and assassins. Well, I guess one's a spy, one's kind of an assassin, but they are hiding the fact that they're assassins from each other. The marriage is a front in order for them to gather intel. And their adopted daughter for the mission is a telepath. And so she can actually read their minds. And it is a very fun anime. Very cool the way that they put that all together. Really, really fun things that they play with in there. But, yeah. Those are a couple of picks right there, man. Yeah, Kendall, it's so good, man. It's such a fun family one, too. Rosie says, did you see the Drinker's review for Ahsoka? I'm a fan of him. He either missed the plot point that the Purg will go to Peridia to die, or conveniently left it out twice. It really bummed me. I hope he's not being disingenuous. I did not watch his review of Ahsoka. I do like the Drinker stuff, but he's not like regularly in my YouTube rotation. But having said that, it's like, look, dude, I watch some weird shit on YouTube. Like, I think a lot of the juice on YouTube is in smaller channels, if I'm being honest. Because most of the really successful channels are like algorithmic, rage-inducing hook. Oh, you must know this thing. Watch video to find out. And then the information is... It's like the formula of YouTube is becoming a little tiresome to me. I don't know if you guys agree or not. It obviously works. It's obviously a thing. And, you know, we have really successful videos that follow that formula too. But to me, a lot of the juice comes from smaller channels that are like actually having conversations and actually talking about shit, you know? So no, I didn't watch the Drinker stuff. You know, here's the other thing too, is like, I'm not in the habit of rage watching. Like, I know some of y'all love that shit and also love to complain about it. But I am not, that doesn't seem like a good time to me. Like, I don't see a video and be like, oh, man, I can't believe this person feels this way. Now I've got to watch a 40-minute video and write down every way I disagree with them. I'm like, I'd rather just play Warhammer, you know? But I hear you. Overbound Game Studio with a 10 says, if Ben had a secret twin sister and something happened to her, that could have been explained Ben's fall without destroying Luke. It's true. Although I am going to work on a video that explains that Abeloth is the way to retcon the sequels and to explain what was going on with Luke. Abeloth. That's the answer. Mariana says with a very generous $20 holla, says, I respect people's right to not like Ahsoka, but when one mocks those enjoying the show just crapping on it for the sake of crapping like some YouTube channels, I'm like, why? I've had it with choosing a side of the culture war. I absolutely agree with you, but I also think it's one of those things where, like, look, I understand this energy. Somebody was bringing this up on the Discord yesterday, too, kind of like trying to say, like, the reason Star Wars and Marvel discourse has fallen off is, like, nerd erotic's fault. And I just think that's, like, I just don't, I'm not there. I don't agree. I mean, do I think they have a cultural impact? Absolutely. But you know, to say that it's just them and it's not also the studio giving them ammunition, it's not also the studio doing boneheaded things that are completely out of touch, while it's not also the studio not giving the artists the true breadth of freedom to create the art that they need, it's like that's more of the issue than motherfucking grifters on YouTube. Like, that shit just exists. It is what it is. You can't, like, I guess you can, like, it's your prerogative. But, like, if you want to just get so wrapped up into that and being angry that those voices are out there, I just don't think that solves anything. And it's certainly not protecting your own personal experience just going through the world. Like, why would you want to engage in that and, like, watch all these videos and then, like, bring it into my chat and get all mad about it? Do you know what I mean? Like, that feels like several steps of not the way, you know. But again, I respect the differences. You know, you're all allowed to live how you want to. Pop Culture Pastor says, "Hey Josh, love your content, brother. Long time watcher. Rooting for you in your quest to curse less. How did I do today? I feel like we did pretty good. I feel like there was less cursing today. What do you think, guys? Did I do all right? How did I do? How did I do? Did I do good? Let's see here. Wicco says, it's like the Mandela effect. Second loop overrides first. Could be. I've thought of that as well. That is also a possibility. Darth Vader's burnt asshole. One of my that doesn't count, by the way. I'm reading a name. That doesn't count. The last few episodes of Ahsoka have the same plot as Quantum Mania. Thrawn is Kang, both exiled and need specific ship to leave. Peridia equal Quantum Realm. We even know Scott was originally stuck too. Actually, it's funny you say that. I was thinking a lot this weekend about the I was thinking a lot this weekend about the similarities between that, and not only that, but also the old legends, right? Because there are two black holes, even on this planet, Plo Koon's planet, that Luke and Ben Skywalker go to visit. There's like these two black holes on the side of them, and then I think even the Maw itself and the area that surrounds Abeloth's planet, is it not like, aren't there black holes there too? I was like, dang, dude, there's a lot of similarities between this stuff. It's wild. There's even a moment where Luke discusses how black holes are unsettling to Jedi because they're like the lack of life. And the Jedi, you know, death doesn't bother the Jedi because it's a natural part of life. But in absence of everything, that's a different kind of death that kind of like bothers them. It's kind of interesting. Let's see here. Rahul says, if Toby, RDJ are the leads of Secret Wars, what do you think their story arcs will be since they are arced out? I get it business-wise, but story-wise, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's that deep. They're heroes. And they're heroes that are going to be called upon to serve a greater good, to potentially even make sacrifices in order to stop an infinite evil. I don't even think it's that deep, bro. By the way, it's funny because those characters have more development than any of these newer characters. Like, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man has an incredible amount of development, not just through his own trilogy, but through Far From Home. So there's already a development process that's going on there, and we'll just have to see where we find that character via Secret Wars. You know what I mean? Dominique says, side note, love how Toast has basically revealed she's one of those Wanda fans. The show is unnecessary and should be canceled. Yeah. Look, Toast and all... Here's my thing. I'm going to sound like a hypocrite, but I think all these anonymous scoopers need to go. I think they've actually ruined a lot of the fun. And it sucks because, of course, I'm a hypocrite a little bit because, like, I talk about a lot of those things and I, you know, can't help myself. But I was thinking about this. If Toast, Shine, and Daniel Rickman disappeared tomorrow, Marvel fandom improves 9,000,000% overnight. And that sucks, but it's also true. And the fact that they are spoiling every goddamn thing, like they have no filter because they're just clout monsters. And because they don't have a filter, because they don't have the ability to pull anything back, and because they're all probably just kids from people that are important, I just think they have no idea how much damage they're actually doing to the fandom. And one of the things that's weird is, like, look at all the projects for the next 2 years for Marvel Studios. And we already know basically how they all begin and end. You know? So it sucks, but those people are actually the problem. And because they're anonymous, there's no accountability. When I talk about stuff, when I go out there and do stuff, there's accountability. You know, the last episode of Ahsoka, I got mind-blowing leaks that day. And some of those people, the accounts that I'm talking about right now, were begging me to tell them. And I was just like, nah. That night when we did the watch party, I did the little bit with the list. And I mean, it was 3 for 3. We had all the big stuff. But I was glad we didn't talk about it until it was over. You know what I mean? So I don't have malice towards these people, but they're a huge part of the problem. And I don't even think they realize it. And because they're just clout monsters, they're not going to stop. You know what I mean? So basically, TLDR, and because I'm trying not to swear, I'll say it in a nicer way. Screw Can We Get Some Toast? Screw that meanie. Showroom Saber says, can say after 9 months, you are the most balanced and based. You are the most based and best YouTuber. Hope the fam is doing well and the apprentice is growing well. God bless. Much love. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. We're doing good over here, man. We're doing good. Lloyd Templos just says mind blown several times via an emoji. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Dadboy22 says they should keep Kang Dynasty only if Loki is the lead character. The only other characters who know Kang remember him as the guy who got beat by the ants. That's hilarious. So, you know what's funny about that is like the very idea of we'll save that one. We'll save that one. I have some ideas for how that's all going to fit together. And if they do it right, it could be really cool, actually. Yeah, really cool. Toxic says, hey, Josh, keep up the great work. Always look forward to these streams, especially these breakdown ones. See you at the meetup, brother. I'll see you there, man. It's going to get wild. I'm excited for the meetup. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun. Kick it, have some drinks. It's good stuff. Cybercoastal says, I agree with your point on smaller YouTube channels and the algorithm. It's ridiculously predictable the points a lot of these bigger channels will say. Yeah, and that's not to say some of the bigger channels don't do good work. I really respect Ryan from Screen Crush. I really respect Eric. I really respect my buddy Paul. I got a lot of respect for these guys putting it together. It's more that because of the way the algorithm happens, they all have to kind of talk about the same things kind of in the same way. And I'm guilty of it too. I mean, in the Star Wars thing, when we were killing it, we were putting out videos very similar to a lot of other people. That's just what happens. That's just how the algorithm works. But if you want the juice, if you want to really find some good novel things, you've got to dig a little deeper than your freaking recommended on YouTube, you know? Jarmro says, great video, Josh. Do you think Gunn's influence on the Infinity War made it good? And now without him, it's all gone downhill. It's hard to say. You know, I mean, I obviously think that James Gunn is very talented, but I don't love all of his stuff, including his Middle Guardians film. And so it's hard to say. I thought the Guardians were utilized pretty brilliantly in Infinity War and Endgame, and apparently Gunn had some big issues with how they were used. So again, it's just really hard to say. But I will say this. I think that the quality... I think James Gunn is being missed at Marvel, but that's not their biggest issue. They got some issues, bro. Beyond that. Chillin says, yo, Josh and chat, while not perfect, Ahsoka was what we needed. It would appear that Loki will be what we been needing as well. Too bad it's temporary. We need consecutive slappers. Nerd Avengers for life. Take my money. Hell yeah, man. I appreciate that. I think that's probably true. I think at the end of the day, like, what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to figure out is, like, you know, I got some theories, man. You know, as you all saw today, I got some thoughts. I've been digging deep into this. I think it's cool. The question is, like, how much of an audience for that kind of content is there? I'm going to make that content regardless. I'm also busier than I've ever been, and I'm doing a lot with, like, Unity and some other things. I want to get the Warhammer channel going. So, we'll see. You know, I'm not going anywhere, and I don't plan on stopping the way I cover these things. It just might be a diminished audience until Marvel and Star Wars kind of gets a little bit more momentum, you know? I guess we'll just kind of see. Luanator says, Josh, man, you are the best YouTuber around. Keep up the good work, brother. Also, bro, you're looking super swole today. I'm 30 with 4 kids, and you give me inspiration to keep going hard. Pause. LOL. Nerd Adventures for life. Really? Because I feel like a fat, useless piece of shit today. I don't feel good, man. I didn't really go to the gym over the weekend because I wasn't feeling well, and we were dealing with so much at the house. I'd love to get into the gym today, but I am under the weather. So I appreciate that, though. Thank you. That's nice. All right, guys, I got to get on out of here. Anything else on the agenda? Anything else we need to discuss? Any other lingering questions on your mind? I'll hang for like 5-10. So will it be male or female Loki at the end of time? I think it'll be a female Loki initially, and then I think it'll be male Loki after this season. That's just my theory. Because I think just like Kang can't actually have Ravonna and be in charge of time, same thing for Loki. He cannot have Sylvie and be the master of time. Be Avenger Prime. Can't have them both. Which is also like that's like the superhero thing in Marvel. You can't have both. You know, it's a sacrifice to be a hero. Ahsoka Nielsen numbers. I mean, they're not good. We'll have to wait and see what. Did they come out today for week? Is there new numbers? Or are you just talking about like in general? Are there new Nielsen numbers? New ones or not? Nerd Theory tonight? I think so. I got to talk to Theory later. I'm not sure. Steelers won yesterday? Let's go. I didn't even know that. That's dope. The numbers for episode 4. Yeah, they're not good. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. Ahsoka is not performing the way I thought it would, and it's not performing the way I think Disney wants it to. Yeah. 49ers won. That's what mattered. Did they beat the Cowboys? Is that what happened? Turn gambling on for 30 seconds and see what happens. Why would I do that? I already know what happens. I know the loop. Because you can't break free from your karma, Trev. We're not talking about this. What do you mean? Yeah, they crushed them? Yeah. Possible Loki versus Thanos rematch. I mean, you never know. That could be fun. What fictional world would you like to live in? Ooh, that's interesting. I mean, the Harry Potter world seems fun, but not if you're a muggle, I guess, huh? Star Wars would be fun if you were a Jedi or a bounty hunter. Warhammer, my favorite thing in the world. You definitely don't want to live there. Like, no. Warhammer is the kind of game that is so fun, but also you're like, I'm really glad I don't live in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. Dragon Ball Z could be fun, yeah. Black Clover world would be cool for sure, as long as you had magic. Although I guess you could be Asta, huh? What about the Unity world? I don't know if I'd want to live there. But it's a fun world to tell stories in. For sure. Will they pick up the World War Hulk ties? I think they are going to do World War Hulk. I expect World War Hulk, Shang-Chi 2, Doctor Strange 3. I expect those movies to be announced at San Diego Comic-Con next year. Maybe sooner, but probably at San Diego next year. And hopefully those will be like important movies that matter that are going to lead into the multiversal stuff. So we'll see. Narnia could be cool. Yeah. Lord of the Rings could be cool. I mean, shit, man, being a hobbit, just chilling in the Shire seems pretty fun to me. Would not want to live in the boys' world. No, absolutely not. Ugh. Absolutely not. Okay, everybody. I appreciate you. Much love. I hope you had a good time. I hope you got some thinking going on in your brains now. I hope to see you in the next one. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video. Is everybody gone? Did everybody leave? Nothing like some classic nerd venging. Nothing like rolling out of bed and proving we're one of the best to ever do it. The depth of knowledge, the ability to tie things to one another, unmatched. Unmatched. I appreciate you for being here. Cool videos coming at you soon. Remember, open up your third eye and wash out that stinky butt. Oh!